happens to new cars that don't get sold?
Have you ever wondered what happens to new cars?
If you've ever driven by a car dealership and seen rows and rows of brand new cars, you've probably wondered what happens to the ones that just don't sell.
Have you ever driven past a dealership and wondered what happens to all those brand new cars that never sell? Well, you're not alone. In today's video, we're diving into the untold story of unsold cars. What really happens to those vehicles that sit on the lot for months or even years? Do they get shipped back to the factory? Do they get crushed into scrap metal? Or is there something else at play here? With overstock challenges and unsold inventory piling up, dealerships need to find ways to clear their lots and keep things moving. And with new models rolling in, how do they handle the cars that just won't sell? Stick around as we explore the fate of unsold new cars and how dealerships deal with this hidden challenge. Let's jump into it. When dealerships find themselves stuck with unsold new car inventory, they often turn to discounting and promotional strategies to make their stock more appealing to potential buyers. These tactics become even more important as new models roll out in the fall, and there's a rush to clear space for fresh stock. But have you ever driven past a dealership and wondered what happens to all those cars just sitting there gathering dust? Or maybe you've thought, how do they get people to suddenly buy the cars that nobody wants? The truth is, dealers face these tough questions every day, and they have a few tricks up their sleeves to move that inventory quickly. One of the most common ways is through seasonal promotions and sales events. Take year-end clearance sales, for example. These events are a staple in the dealership world. As the year comes to a close, dealers typically offer huge discounts on the current models to clear them out before the next year's lineup arrives. They often include cash rebates, low-interest financing, and attractive lease terms to sweeten the deal. But what's really fascinating is the numbers behind it. In December of 2024, buyers were offered an average discount of $3,400, which was a whopping 25% increase from the previous year. Now, think about that. Would a discount like that tempt you to rush to the dealership? Another strategy that has been around for decades is the slasher sales. Have you ever heard of these crazy time-limited events where prices are slashed dramatically? First introduced in the late 1980s, these sales are designed to create a sense of urgency, prompting buyers to act fast before the deals disappear. Have you ever felt that rush of excitement when you think you might miss out on a deal? That's the whole idea behind slasher sales. They draw people in with eye-popping discounts, which creates a surge in foot traffic at sales volume. These sales are not just about clearing space. They're about creating a buzz and attracting buyers who might not have considered purchasing a car at all. So, how do these strategies really work to move the inventory? Are these quick fixes enough to get cars off the lot and out of the dealership? Or are there even more clever tactics at play? Let's dive into that next. When new cars sit unsold on dealership lots for far too long, what happens next? Well, sending them to auto auctions becomes one of the most strategic decisions dealerships can make to minimize financial losses and keep their operations running smoothly. But why would a dealership choose to sell cars at auction even if it means accepting a lower price? Is it simply a last-ditch effort, or is there a deeper strategy at play? Well, here's the thing. Holding on to unsold inventory comes at a cost. We're talking about interest on floor plan financing, insurance, and the inevitable depreciation of those vehicles. These costs continue to add up, and sooner or later, dealerships need to make a move. And for many, that move is straight to the auction block. But think about this for a second. If a dealership is selling cars at auction, they're typically selling at a loss. Doesn't sound ideal, right? So what makes this the best option? When a car surpasses a certain number of days on the lot, dealerships face increased financing charges that can quickly add up. In this scenario, sending a car to auction, even at a loss, helps minimize further financial strain. It's a balancing act between short-term losses and long-term relief. But what exactly happens when these cars head to auction? Who's buying them, and why? There are two types of auto auctions that dealerships use: dealer-only auctions and public auctions. Let's start with dealer-only auctions. These are exclusive to licensed car dealers and are where the real action happens. Think of it like a wholesale market where unsold vehicles, trade-ins, and off-lease cars get a second chance to find new owners. Dealers purchase cars with plans to resell them, often at a profit. It's a win-win for the dealerships involved, allowing them to offload inventory quickly while still turning a profit. But there's also the public auction route, which is open to both dealers and regular buyers. Public auctions provide an alternative platform to sell unsold vehicles, but dealerships often prefer dealer-only auctions because they're guaranteed to get their cars into the hands of people who can resell them quickly. The major perk of auction sales? Quick inventory turnover. Let's face it, those unsold cars are just taking up space on the lot. By sending them to auction, dealerships free up valuable space for new models, which is crucial, especially during the busy season. But there's more. Selling at auction also helps reduce ongoing costs like financing and insurance. And don't forget market-driven pricing. Auctions reflect real-time demand, so dealerships get a more accurate picture of what their cars are worth based on current market conditions. It's about getting a realistic price, even if that price is lower than they'd hoped. Now, don't think this process is all sunshine and rainbows. Selling at auction often means taking a hit. The prices at auctions are usually lower than retail. The success of auction sales is also unpredictable. Everything from the condition of the car to the popularity of the model and even the market demand that day can affect the outcome. And here's something that dealerships might not want to hear. Frequent auctioning of unsold cars could raise some red flags about their inventory management. No one wants to be known for having a lot full of unsold cars, right? So, while sending unsold cars to auto auctions may not be the most glamorous solution, it's a practical one. It allows dealerships to move inventory, reduce costs, and adapt to market fluctuations. It's all about finding that delicate balance between immediate losses and long-term operational efficiency. After all, unsold cars won't stay on the lot forever. They eventually find a home one way or another. But the key question remains, will that home come through the dealership's door, or will it be the auction block that seals the deal? Building on the idea of optimizing inventory, another strategic move dealerships use to manage unsold vehicles is relocating them to high-demand markets where they're more likely to sell quickly. When new cars sit unsold in certain regions, dealerships often employ a clever strategy to address the problem, relocating these vehicles to areas where demand for specific models is higher. But have you ever wondered how dealerships decide where to send these cars? Is it just a random choice, or is there a calculated plan behind every move? The truth is, this strategy is all about optimizing inventory turnover, reducing holding cost, and boosting sales performance. By strategically positioning vehicles in regions with stronger demand, dealerships increase the chances of quicker sales, making it a win-win situation. But how do dealerships figure out which markets are the best to target? The first step in the relocation process is identifying the high-demand markets. Dealerships use a mix of sales data analysis, market research, and inventory assessments to pinpoint where certain models are more likely to sell. Sales trends give a good indication of what consumers in specific regions are looking for. For example, if a particular vehicle is popular in urban areas with a younger demographic, dealerships might focus on sending more of that model to cities with similar consumer profiles. Market research helps dealerships understand regional preferences, and inventory assessments show which areas have an oversupply of certain vehicles. But once they've identified these markets, the next question is, how do they get the cars there without breaking the bank? That's where logistics comes into play. Efficiently moving vehicles from one region to another requires collaboration with auto transport companies. These partnerships ensure that vehicles are securely and cost-effectively shipped to the right locations. But it's not just about moving the cars. Dealerships must also consider the regulatory compliance of the new location. Different states or cities may have specific regulations for vehicle sales, so ensuring the cars meet these standards is crucial. And of course, dealerships must carefully weigh the cost associated with transportation, including fuel, insurance, and potential tariffs, against the expected increase in sales. After all, is it worth spending money to move the cars if the increase in sales doesn't cover those costs? So, what are the real benefits of vehicle relocation? For starters, it opens up enhanced sales opportunities. By introducing cars to areas where demand is higher, dealerships increase the likelihood of quicker sales and reduce the time the vehicles spend sitting on the lot. It also allows for improved inventory management. When stock levels align more closely with consumer preferences in different regions, dealerships can avoid having too many unsold vehicles in one area, which could lead to financial strain. Furthermore, Relocating popular models to high-demand markets can strengthen a dealership's brand presence. By ensuring that cars are available in areas where they're most wanted, dealerships can increase brand visibility and make a more significant impact in those markets. However, this strategy is not without its challenges. Transportation costs are a big consideration. Shipping vehicles across the country or even between cities incurs expenses, and dealerships must ensure that the potential sales increase justifies these costs. Another issue is market saturation. If dealerships send too many of the same model to a high-demand area, they risk oversaturating the market, which can lead to reduced prices and slower sales. Lastly, consumer perception plays a role. Consumers may be less interested in a vehicle if they feel like it's not as exclusive or in demand, so it's important for dealerships to maintain the right balance in the market to keep interest high. In summary, vehicle relocation is a smart and strategic way for dealerships to optimize inventory, boost sales, and align stock with consumer demand. By carefully considering the logistics, costs, and market dynamics, dealerships can effectively manage unsold vehicles and maintain a healthy, profitable operation. Ultimately, thoughtful relocation can help dealerships stay competitive in an ever-changing market and ensure that their inventory is always where it's most likely to sell. Now that we've uncovered the fate of some unsold cars, you might be wondering, how do dealerships handle the overstock problem when cars just keep piling up? Let's dive into that next. Like and subscribe if you're curious to find out. When new cars sit unsold on dealership lots, what can dealerships do to make the most of these idle vehicles? Instead of letting them just gather dust, why not repurpose them as loaner cars for service departments or sell them to fleet buyers, such as rental companies? This strategy doesn't just solve the problem of unsold inventory, it helps dealerships meet their operational and customer service goals. But how does this actually work? And what benefits does it bring to both the dealership and the customer? One of the smartest moves is turning unsold cars into loaner vehicles for customers whose cars are in for service or repairs. Think about it. How frustrating would it be to have to leave your car at the dealership and have no way to get around? By offering a loaner car, dealerships not only enhance customer satisfaction, but they also gain an opportunity to keep their vehicles in good condition. These loaner cars typically accumulate low mileage and undergo less wear and tear, so when it's time to sell them, they're in great shape and can fetch a higher resale value as lightly used models. Isn't it a win-win for both the customer and the dealership? And on top of that, a fleet of loaner cars ensures that service departments stay efficient during peak times, helping them manage customer expectations. But what happens when loaners aren't enough? That's where fleet buyers come into play. Rental companies are constantly refreshing their fleets, and they often purchase unsold vehicles from dealerships. Have you ever rented a car and wondered, where do they get all these great vehicles? Well, rental companies like Hertz often buy unsold cars to expand their inventory. While this helps clear out the dealership's lot, it's not without its trade-offs. The big question here is, what impact does a rental history have on a vehicle's future resale value? While these vehicles may be in good condition, future buyers might hesitate to purchase a car that's been rented out repeatedly. From a financial and strategic standpoint, using unsold cars for loaner or fleet purposes brings in immediate revenue. Think about it. Dealerships are reducing holding costs and generating income at the same time. Plus, brand exposure is ramped up when cars are on rental lots, giving potential buyers the chance to test the drive car without the pressure of purchase. And as a dealership, isn't it better to have your unsold cars on the move, minimizing depreciation rather than letting them sit idly on the lot? Repurposing unsold vehicles isn't just a clever solution, it's an essential strategy for dealerships to stay competitive, efficient, and profitable. So, next time you see a rental car, remember, it might just have started its journey as an unsold vehicle at your local dealership, and that's not such a bad thing after all. Building on the strategies to move unsold inventory, another critical challenge dealerships face is managing overstock and finding efficient ways to store and protect those unsold vehicles. How do you think a surplus of vehicles might affect a dealership's bottom line? The holding cost alone, financing, insurance, and maintenance can add up quickly, putting a strain on resources. In fact, dealerships typically aim to keep about 60 days worth of inventory, but when that number exceeds, it can lead to significant financial pressures. Unsold vehicles can also suffer depreciation, reducing their resale value. But here's a question: what happens to customer perception when potential buyers see rows of unsold cars sitting on the lot? Does it make the dealership seem like it has an undesirable inventory? To tackle these challenges, dealerships have a few tricks up their sleeve. One option is discounting or offering promotions like cash rebates or financing deals. What better way to move inventory than with an irresistible deal? Another strategy involves relocating vehicles to areas with higher demand, boosting their chances of selling. But if the overstock problem persists, how can dealerships keep those cars from degrading in quality? Proper storage is key. Protecting vehicles from environmental damage and performing regular maintenance can help keep them in top condition, helping to maintain their value. So, the next time you see a dealership with too many cars, you'll know they're working hard to turn that overstock into a profitable situation. So, next time you drive past a dealership with rows of unsold cars, remember there's a whole strategy behind how those vehicles are handled. Whether they're getting discounted, relocated, or repurposed, dealerships always have a plan to clear the lot and keep things moving. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's the most unexpected fate of an unsold car that you've heard of? Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.